All right, good evening. My presentation is on some ecological issues within the California and Oregon coast. This is relating to the purple sea urchins. I know some of you likely have seen this. Kellerman actually gave us a brief video on it and their relationship with the California sunflower sea star. It's one of the only five armed sea stars in the world, so it's a pretty cool predator. And this predator prey imbalance kind of made a situation where the purple sea urchin, that's actually native to California, got up into higher oceanic areas that began to dominate the kelp forest and cause a collapse of that. So we're going to look at these two species, and we're going to start with the sunflower sea star. Now, before 2013, this species was one of the most successful predators in the Pacific Northwest. It quickly moves across the seafloors with all its little arms and tentacles, and it consumes a large number of sea urchins, keeping the kelp forest stables. Its size and speed and variety of diet made it an essential part of the ecosystem. It also had a range from Alaska all the way down to Baja California, so pretty wide range. It could live in colder water, more temperate climates, like I said, in Alaska, as well as the warmer climates in California. Now, the purple sea urchin is also native, so this is kind of a weird dichotomy because this isn't really the focus, but the relationships that's caused from it has made a invasive species setting. So the success of the purple sea urchin comes from its traits, and it exhibits a lot of traits that are similar to what would be found in an invasive species. It reproduces at high amounts. It's really hard to kill. It's really only vulnerable at one stage, and not that much eats it at that stage. So it's really only vulnerable during the larval stage, but it shoots out a ton of larvae. It reproduces in huge numbers, survives super long periods of times. They kind of have a really cool trait similar to, I think they're called water bears that can survive in space, but that's a different discussion. Sea urchins, they can zombieify themselves in the sense that they can stay still and lead, like, slow down their metabolism and need very little nutrients, and they can just catch floating debris and survive off that. And this kind of makes a really unbalanced situation in the event that they don't have any predators, and the sunflower sea star is a main predator. So between 2013 and 2015, 90% of that sea star was killed by the sea star wasting disease. And in many parts of California where it used to be abundant, it completely disappeared. This is similar to the Oregon coast. And the adults sea urchins began to spread across the seafloor, and they created what were called sea urchin barrens. So in once areas that were filled with green, lush kelp forests, they ended up being barrens. And we'll get into why this destroyed the ecosystem. Essentially, kelp forests are like our forests that are terrestrial. Now, they hold thousands, if not hundreds, of different species of marine life, and that life can lead from anywhere to macroinvertebrates to fish to abalone to crabs to sea otters even. And sea otters actually do predate on sea urchins, and we'll get into that a little bit later. So although the urchins are native, they now function like an invasive force because they have nothing keeping them under control. There's no more sea urchins, or sea stars, excuse me. Historically, they shared this area, but the habitats now look very different. The sea stars scattered in pockets all around the West Coast, and it's a problem. And their attempts at solutions are, rebuilding the population of sunflower sea stars. When a population is down to 90%, there's only 10%. If you have 100 individuals, you only got 10 left. And a lot of it has come down to captive breeding and putting them in areas where urchins are destroying the landscape, leaving barrens. And these urchins don't just eat enough. They eat and eat and eat and reproduce. They eat. The sprouts of bull kelp and king kelp can't even get a head start because as soon as they do, the sea urchins will come and nab them. So they're rebuilding that sea star population. Excuse me. A second strategy was also used with otters. Otters can get into the hard shells of the urchins and eat them. There's also direct removal, so you could go dive down, get a big basket, and scrape sea urchins, but they're really stuck on the rock. So it's a problem. It's a problem species because they're spiky, they're durable. However, there is a bit of a commercial use now. I think it's pronounced uni. It's a reproductive organ inside the sea urchin that's become a delicacy in seafood, and that's kind of getting a little bit of footing, but not enough to bring the populations back. So this all ties into the need for resilience, the need for environmental change and climate change rolling in, creating warmer temperatures. The sea urchins are moving up. The sea stars are getting hit hard with this disease and they can't compete anymore. And this is why it's functioning sort of like an invasive species. Now, this shows that the purple sea urchin crisis can show how losing even a single predator can destabilize an entire ecosystem. And that's obvious within the bull kelp and king kelp forests. And through predator restoration, urchin removal, kelp planting, different environmental management within the marine ecosystem, I think we can rebuild these coastal ecosystems and restore balance to that previous California and Oregon nearshore waters. Thank you for listening. Sorry I went a little over time.